So on my way into work this morning, I was kind of thinking about what podcast I was going to do. One of them in the back of my head, it's been done a lot, but we're getting record-setting numbers for this issue, and not the kind of records we want to be setting. New report finds 10,000% jump in theft of catalytic converters in Washington state. 10,000%. I was talking to my girlfriend about that, and she was like, yeah, so how do you convert 10,000% to an actual net? Like, how many catalytic converters is that being stolen? Well, it's literally in the thousands. So I'm coming to work this morning. I parked my car. I'm getting my stuff out, getting my gear out, normal just nonsense before you go to record some podcasts and do whatever it is I do all day. Don't know. I'm doing that, and I look at my phone. I got a call coming in. Oh, that's interesting. It's one of my guys, my employees, and he doesn't call me very often, usually texts. And so I'm like, oh, this can't be good. It's 9:00. It's showtime here at the office, and he's calling. And so, he called to say his catalytic converter had been stolen overnight in downtown Bellevue in a secured apartment complex with security cameras. They took his Honda Accord, I think it is, smaller Honda, jacked it up really high, put a really tall block. I want to say it's like maybe a 4x4 block or something, maybe a little bit bigger than that, of wood. And that's maybe, 18 inches. So just the one side of the car is just, really high. They whacked his catalytic converter and just kind of left his muffler. At least they left his muffler. So he is literally dealing with that right now as I report this issue. So we've got a 10,000% jump. And it's just off the charts. It's basically because the criminals know they're going to get away with this. This is a given. Cut off somebody's catalytic converter, $300. Even if they get caught in the act, probably nothing's going to happen to them. Might get a little fine. They're not going to do any jail time. Everybody's too busy. And guess what? You're just not going to catch these guys. They're going to run off. The cops can't chase them. Nobody can chase them. Once they're gone, they're gone. And they know that they can get away with this. Super frustrating. So I offered my employee, hey, do you need some help getting it towed, whatever? And he's just going to call a tow truck. And it's just, this is in Bellevue, which is, used to be kind of more safe, I guess. Less safe now. And, Seattle has been, property crime in Seattle rivals any major North American city now as far as what's going on out there. So it's just crazy. Let's watch a little bit of a video. This kind of gives an overview of where we sit. And there's a few things in this video I want to talk about before we read the article. Here we go.
Catalytic converter thefts continue to plague our state at never-before-seen levels. New data shows these thefts skyrocketed more than 10,000% in Washington since 2019. KOMO's Tyra Majors breaks down the numbers and looked into what officials are doing about it.
3 minutes. That's how long it takes for a thief to steal a catalytic converter.
Thief can pop under a vehicle, take a saw, and chop it off if the consumer doesn't have, that safeguard in place to protect their vehicle. It is wild.
So wild, Washington state comes in first place for the most thefts. Carrie Sharon is a consumer advocate for data company Been Verified. Their reports show in the first 4 months of 2022, there were over 1,500 thefts here.
3 years in, Washington state has seen the highest percentage change from 2019 to 2021, 10,000%. That's the highest in the country and the only state to see that kind of number in the tens of thousands.
Converters have been a hot commodity during the pandemic. They contain valuable metals with high resale values. The King County Prosecutor's Office says they recognize the dramatic increase, but there's been few arrests. Too many people are making a quick buck and not getting caught.
It takes a lot for officers to find people in the act and to prove that a catalytic converter is, from a certain vehicle. But, when we get those cases, we're working a lot with police to make sure that those charges will stick.
The state just passed a law requiring scrap metal buyers to show ID and records when buying catalytic converters. It's too soon to tell, but their office hopes that'll address the rise in thefts.
If you get caught buying a stolen catalytic converter, you're fined $1,000, $2,000. That would make people who are buying these stolen catalytic converters say, wait a minute, that's not worth the risk there.
What are the penalties for
for people who are caught stealing, for the thieves?
We can charge it as a burglary, as theft, as malicious mischief. It really depends on how the case is referred to us with the information that police investigators get in each individual case.
But these current penalties in place don't seem to deter the criminals from stopping.
We can get a conviction, but if the state sentencing guidelines are not as robust as people want them to be, there's going to be that continued frustration.
The prosecutor's office say they often see the same people committing the crime repeatedly. Their high priority offender unit is working to address the problem. In the meantime, there are things you can do to protect yourself.
Try to park your car against a wall, or secure it in a location, a garage, somewhere that a thief can't easily access.
Tyra Majors, 𝐏𝐞𝐬𝐬 News.
All right. So nothing new there other than Washington State is number one. We're number one in catalytic converter thefts. Oh, that's not good. What's interesting to me is that this issue really took off during the pandemic. Remember when at the beginning of the pandemic, we had crazy stories about just all kinds of wacky stuff because like the pandemic and then everything was going, we had the race riots and just all kinds of stuff was happening and we weren't quite sure what the deal was. Now it's quite clear. It's very clear what the deal is. I mean, criminals know they can steal this stuff and get away with it. Here in Seattle proper, Seattle address, if you get sexually assaulted, the odds of authorities catching and prosecuting and putting away the criminal that did that to you are slim to none. So that's sexual assault. So if we're not covering that because we don't have the horsepower as far as the police department goes, if we're not covering issues like that, do you really think we're going to go after a catalytic converter theft? Odds are not high, are they? No. And that's why these criminals know they can get it. And this isn't just a Washington State deal, but Washington State is number one. We're number one. Wild, right? Why do you think so many catalytic converters are being stolen in Washington State? It's interesting. Are they going to store them in their tiny houses because they're homeless and they're getting put up in tiny houses? Is that what they're doing? I mean, are they, converting this to cash and saving for a rainy day? I mean, I'm open to ideas. What are they doing with all that money, that $300 hard-earned dollars for their 3 minutes of theft and basically ruining somebody's month? These catalytic converters are super expensive. I did a little research, mainly because I've got people in my life that I don't want to have their catalytic converters taken. Like at the end of this video, the recommendation is, park your car in a secured garage where it's harder for them to get. Okay, that's a genius idea. Why didn't I think of that? I do park my car in my garage and I lock it. And I am very cautious now to not leave my house open ever because of these jerk-offs that are just running around stealing stuff willy-nilly in the middle of the day. So my guy that had his catalytic converter just stolen probably last night, maybe over the weekend, he was at a festival over at the Gorge this past weekend, didn't check his car because he didn't drive his car, looked at it today, and he's like, oh my gosh, that's not good. And then I got the phone call. It's in a complex that's nice. It is a very nice, totally comfortable having, somebody living there. It's in downtown Bellevue. It's a block away from, maybe it's 2 blocks away from my gym. It's in the heart of things. So you've got criminals just emboldened criminals just out doing their thing. 3 minutes, $300, on the low end, and away they go. So yeah. Until we get some laws on the books, and that's another thing. We just had some laws put in place that basically what it does is people who buy a stolen catalytic converter, it makes it a little bit harder on them. It doesn't do anything for the criminals doing this. It doesn't help at all. That's Washington State for you, though. And then we sit around and go, why is catalytic converters up 10,000%? I have no idea. What's the deal here? You got a bunch of drug addicts who are making a quick buck, who are feeding their fix, and this is how the system works. Now, we don't do anything about it. So what do you expect? 10,000% increase. That's impressive. Yeah, in the wrong way, right? What are we even doing? Don't know. All right, let's jump on in. Catalytic converter thefts are rising in Washington State, 10,000% since 2019. According to new data released from Ben Verified, Washington is now the leading state with the highest number of catalytic converter thefts in the nation. Some other stories that we've had sheriff's office vehicles, cats taken off of them. King County Assessor's Department has had some cats taken off of them. I mean, you name it, it has happened. I know so many people, they're like, it's usually a friend of a friend that you kind of know. And you're like, oh, that sucks. But you don't really know them all that well. And you're like, yeah, you know what? But my employee, he's going to spend half the day monkeying around, getting his car towed. That's when a tow truck can come, get it off the block. They're going to have to jack it up. They're going to have to knock that block off, jack it back down. Not hard stuff, but it's just a pain in the rear. And then he's going to have to, take it into a shop. They're probably going to have to order a catalytic converter, wait for it to come in. He's monkeying around doing all this. And some guy out there is getting his next fentanyl fix from the $300 he got from my guy's cat. Wild, right? I mean, this is 2022 in Washington State. The report shows in the first 4 months of 2022, there were 1,533 thefts. How many weren't reported? I bet you there's double that. At least. I bet you there's double that. Experts say the automobile parts have been a hot commodity during the COVID-19 pandemic because they contain valuable metals that have a high resale value. I think it's like rhodium, I think it was, and a couple other metals. And you look at the per ounce cost of those, and you're like, holy cow, maybe I should sell my catalytic converter. I mean, I'm sure I've got, expensive one, right? Who knows? But no, catalytic converters are good because if you drive around without a catalytic converter, sounds a little bit like a race car. And that's not a good thing, right? Carrie Sharon, a consumer advocate for Ben Verified, said the state's soaring number of thefts stem from the high amount of electric vehicles on its roads. Okay, let's go with that narrative. You got a lot of electric cars. That's why they're stealing them. All right, so maybe we've got some more targets here. We got a lot of criminals that know that, hey, sky's the limit. Go work your ass off. Go steal those catalytic converters. You're going to make some money. You're not going to pay any taxes either. I mean, this is a good opportunity. Come to Washington State. How would that be for a tourist type or an employment scenario? We'd like you to come work in Washington State. It's a unique opportunity. You can make quick money. And, there's minimal overhead. You need a used electric saw. You need, what else do you need for I don't think you need anything. I think you just need a saw, right? The biggest issue for Washington is that they're so EV friendly, electric vehicle friendly. I don't have an electric vehicle, nor will I in the immediate future. Let's just put it that way. EVs are the biggest targets, and simply because the metals inside can be more valuable than a traditional car. Okay, whatever. King County Prosecutor's Office said they are aware of the number of thefts, but there have been few arrests because we've got so many other crimes going on that this is low priority. You know what I think we should do? I think we should make it like, have you noticed that there have been very few bank robberies? Here in Washington State, we have robberies of, damn near everything, right? You just go out robbing. It's okay. Just rob to your heart's content. It'll be fine. You won't get caught. And if you do, well, they'll let you out on your own personal recognizance and send you packing on your way. And all you got to do is just promise to show up to court. And, you can bail on that because we love you as a human being and we know that you're working to be a better person. So we trust that you're going to come to court and you're going to pay your penance to society for your crimes, right? It's not what we're doing here. What if we treated some of these crimes with repercussions, like the federal bank robbery, 20 years, $250,000 fine? You don't hear of a lot of bank robberies, do you? You don't. You hear of like mini marts, you hear of weed stores, private residences, private businesses, you name it, but not banks, because federal banks, they decided, all right, that's one we're not going to allow. So 20 years sentence. That's pretty easy to come by. And if you show force, it could be even more with like a gun or something along those lines. Could be more than that and up to a $250,000 fine. Now, if you're a bank robber, odds are you don't have a lot of money in the bank. So you're not going to pay a fine. But that threat of 20 years, what if you gave everybody who stole a cat 5 years? Just boom. Now we'd fill up the jails pretty quickly. But we need to send some kind of message somewhere, not to the companies not to the scrap yards that are buying the catalytic converters. Don't buy those because it's already been stolen at that point. Oh, this one's got a serial number on it. I can't buy it. This one looks stolen. No can do. Here you go. Here, you hand it back. I mean, at that point in time, the damage is already done, right? So we need laws on the front end that say, if you get caught, automatic 5 years, go to jail. You need something like that. I don't know. Too many thieves are making quick bucks from the crime with little chance of being caught. It's true. There's a little chance of like any crimes being caught in Washington State right now. I shouldn't say all Washington State because some cities, they're doing their thing. But on the whole, I just feel like the West Coast in general has had issues. It takes a lot for officers to find people in the act and to prove a catalytic converter is from a certain vehicle. When we get these cases, we're working with police to make sure the charges will stick. They're doing the best they can, but they are overrun with all of this stuff going on, right? Governor Jay Inslee just signed House Bill 1815 into law in March, which requires scrap metal buyers to show identification and records when buying the auto part. Really? Really? You're going to take this part and you're going to melt it down for the metal. There's zero liability there, right? Unless you get caught. Unless somebody happens to come into your shop, check out some of the catalytic converters. That one's stolen. I mean, is that really going to happen if you were unscrupulous enough to be buying these things? And maybe you can't tell half the time. You don't know where it came from. Plus, you can't prove it unless it's got a serial number on it. You can't, that one's stolen, that one's not. That's not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. So this genius bill by our genius governor, Jay Inslee, it does effectively nothing. I mean, maybe it does a scooch more than nothing, but it's just a scooch. Although it's too soon to say, law enforcement officials say they are hopeful it will address the rise in thefts. What law enforcement officials honestly think this is going to help our massive issue of catalytic converters? 10,000% increase? Yeah. No, nobody. If you get caught buying a stolen catalytic converter and you're fined $1,000 to $2,000, that would make people buying them say that it's not worth the risk there. That's from the King County prosecutor. I don't think so. You need to do something substantial. You need some jail time in there. I think we need jail time. That's the only thing that I think people are afraid of. I don't really want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail either. I mean, it's a pretty common theme, right? Jail, not good. Yeah, not good. That's not the place you want to be. Penalties for people caught and convicted of the thefts can vary. All right. And then they go into, here's what you can do to help yourself. And it's one of those situations where they're pointing out the obvious, and there is just, there's really nothing you can do. You can engrave that serial number in your catalytic converter. Okay. All right. Here's the serial number. Awesome. It basically does nothing. You can put theft devices around it, but I was doing some research before this podcast, and somebody had put one of the more complex, I think it was a piece of wire wrapped around or integrated with the catalytic converter. And then it took somebody like 30 seconds to snap off the wire, and then, another, 3 minutes to take the catalytic converter. So I don't know if there's a great solution to this other than parking your car in a garage. But that's kind of like saying, all right, you need to only spend 33.3% of your gross income on rent. And if that in your, maybe it's a 2-person household and that's like $1,500, let's just use those for numbers. And rent is $2,500. It's a no-go, right? All right. If you don't have a garage, it's a no-go. You're not going to use it. So, all right, that doesn't help me. So, park against a wall where they can't get to it very easy. All right. Yeah. That means you're going to be wedging your car in somewhere. No, there's just no real way other than putting some hefty hefty deterrence in place. And we need deterrence for all this stuff. We need deterrence for shooting another human being. We need a deterrence for shoplifting. Hey, how about 90 days, no questions asked, first offense shoplifting? What about that? Just, go down that road. Just incarcerate people. Yeah, no, we don't seem to be wanting to do that. We want to go down, everybody's a good person at their core, and so therefore we're just going to, run with it, and we'll kind of see how this is working out. It's not working out here in Washington State. It's just not. And along the West Coast, it's not working out all that great. We want to pretend that, everything's great, it's fine, we're doing good, yeah. Catalytic converters are up 10,000% being stolen from cars. Everybody now knows somebody that's had a cat stolen. Right? I mean, they just kind of do. And I was talking with my one of my other employees, and he's from New York. He said, yeah, my catalytic converter got stolen. We had to take it from like Brooklyn to somewhere else, and I had to go over a bunch of bridges, and it was over a $500 tow. It sounds expensive, And then he went on to say, yeah, my brother in Arizona got his stolen, and then a friend in, another state got theirs stolen. So this is not just a local thing. It's happening all over. It's one of those things where this crime has just been rising. And it's because there are nobody wants to just drop the hammer on this kind of stuff going on. And not to say that this is an either Republican or Democratic kind of thing going on here, but it seems like it's a lot worse in these Democratic-led areas that, love their fellow human being, want to give extra chances, and crime has risen accordingly. It just has. I mean, we know that's a case. So there's that, right? We got that going. Yeah. So the highlights here to prevent thefts are park the car against a wall. That's the suggestion. Park the car against a wall. Oh, okay. All right. Let's just say that works. What if you don't have a wall? It's kind of like not having a garage. Doesn't really help you, right? Securing it in a private location like a garage or somewhere thieves can't easily access. All right. Probably could have thought of that one myself and shared that with you. You know what I mean? There's no real help here. You got to go the other route, and you got to drop the hammer on these people doing this stuff, because they have clearly figured out, all righty then, this is a crime of opportunity. Let's go, to the tune of a 10,000% increase. What do those numbers look like? I think it was like 4,500 catalytic converters last year were stolen. 4,500. And there's probably double that with all the people who haven't reported it. So I don't know. Who knows? I mean, maybe it's 6,000 catalytic converters stolen. It's a lot. That's the bottom line. And it's the measure of how much it's increased, because people know they're going to get away with it. I want to know, how many arrests have been made out of that 4,500 catalytic converters stolen in Washington State? How many arrests have been made? 20? 30? I mean, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt here. 50? Probably not. I don't know what the stats are, but it can't be good, because a 10,000% increase, that only happens when you've got like the perfect storm of conditions to do said action. And that's what's going on here in Washington State. If there is any slowdown in our epidemic of catalytic converters being stolen, I'll let you know right here on News for Reasonable People, because it's what we're doing. Love to have you subscribe, hit that like button, notification bell, so that every time we release a video, you get notified, all that good stuff. Thanks in advance. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.